Sure thing, President Toro. I appreciate the time. Good morning to you all, the ambassadors of this great association. I'm not shy in calling you ambassadors because of your commitment to the advocacy, your commitment to our charitable causes, and your commitment to this association en masse. So I appreciate it. We know your executive team, your BOD, your board of directors knows very well that we can't do this without your involvement. Having said that, I am going to be doing two things today, albeit I had a very exciting presentation ready for you that we will be delivering next week. But today, we will be speaking about SB or Senate Bill 679, and we will give you an update of a very important meeting that the City Council in the City of Glendale had last night. So let me share the screen with you on SB 679. If you were to go to the CAR site, if you were to go to the CAR site, and I will be posting the link for you, there is a red alert, and it has to do with this bill. What is this bill all about? The bill creates an authority of appointed people, not elected, mind you, appointed people, 21 of it, that have the power to tax parcels, levy sales taxes, and so forth, all under the guise of subsidized housing. Now, we know that subsidized housing is important. This is exactly why we all supported EDGE and HHH and so forth. But we also believe that this subsidized housing is the responsibility of an entire community, not just the property owners. This is precisely why the CAR lobbying and or our legislative team decided that we have to oppose SB 679. Now, this bill had a sister bill in San Diego County, Hueso, SB 1105, that Adora and I and some of our members pitched it to Assembly Member Laura Friedman and made it no uncertain terms that CAR and by an extension, Glendale Association of Realtors is against it. Under SB 679, we believe that duplicative and unnecessary work will be performed. This is just an additional layer to bureaucracy. We are against it because the cost of funding affordable homes, as I shared with you, needs to be borne by the entire community, not just the property owners. They will make home ownership through this exercise less affordable because now they have the power of granting contracts to developers and Wall Street firms, folks, to buy single-family homes in this tight market. And we believe that it is totally unnecessary. As I said, I am right now as we speak, posting the link in the chat room, and I hope that you will go in there and you will see these boxes. By the way, this is designed for targeted groups. However, since it was not clear if we were targeted to participate in this endeavor, I would suggest, and I would like very much so, each and every one of you to fill any one of these boxes. And if you do have a Twitter account, this message will go directly to the legislator, in our case, Senator Portantino, and as well as Assemblymember Friedman. Okay, so much for that. And let's take this thing down and start talking about last night's city council meeting, which two items were agendized, and it was a very consequential meeting. And I have to preface my comments by stating that it was one of the better deliberative processes that I have seen this council deliver to its taxpayers and the citizens living in the city of Glendale. It was done very well. So agenda item number one had to do with Mayor Kasakian's wanting to agendize the goals that we should have in producing solar energy as well as storage for the next few years. According to the mayor, he wanted to have a clear-cut direction, and they were able to actually achieve that last night. And right now, if you remember, a long time ago, we had incentives for solar installation on single-family homes and so forth, and that kind of found its way into the tunnels of bureaucracy, and we no longer heard much about it. In fact, City of Glendale didn't have any more incentives. But last night it was decided that 10% of the Glendale water and power users have to have solar energy by 2027, and I am positive that there will be a component of incentives attached to that. In fact, that was item number 4 in that resolution, and that resolution was adopted unanimously. Kudos, and to her credit, newly elected Councilwoman Ellen Asturian was concerned about the equity part of this proposal. And what that means is the following. If I were to put solar on my house, there are ratepayers that cannot afford to pay solar. The revenue of GWP will be reduced by the amount of the solar that my house generates. And that fixed cost gets actually transferred to the folks that that do not have solar on it. So to solar on their homes or in their apartments or what have you. So to her credit, Councilwoman Ellen Asturian made sure that that part of the equation is answered by wanting to know exactly what costs will be transferred, what are we looking at, and whether or not we are going to, as a community, cover that cost. Basically, net metering is the buzzword for that, and the state of California is going through it as we speak. So that was a good thing. I think this 10% of the ratepayers having a solar system by 2027 is only positive for the city of Glendale. Let's not forget that the electrical vehicle usage and the demand for electricity is going to rise tremendously. In fact, I was reading somewhere today, this early in the morning, that 30% of the vehicle sales since the beginning of the year in the state of California are electrical vehicles, right? And that's because the governor had signed into the law the $7,000 incentive for buying an electrical vehicle and so forth. And as we go forward, folks, under SB 100, we know that by 2045, we have to be 100% or strive to have 100% renewable energy providing our electrical power in the city of Glendale or the state of California. So this is a right step towards what SB 100 calls for, and we all strive for as realtors as well. The second agenda item had to do with Grayson Power Plant repowering. Now, just a little bit of a background for you all. Your board of directors in February of 2022 decided to have a voice on the issue of Grayson repowering. The reason they did so is because that is an item that will affect each and every one of your clients that owns a home in City of Glendale, because undoubtedly the cost of providing energy will go up. And it was important for us to have some uh, controls, right, on that process and to be able to actually compel the city of Glendale to have a method, a process that will be fair to all. We did so because right now, City of Glendale is the leader, folks, the leader in providing renewable energy. City of Glendale has 64% of its energy coming or being produced from renewable sources. We did so because we believed that a combination of gas powered engines and renewables is the way to go forward with an eye towards 100% renewable energy. We did so because the gas turbines that were proposed under Grayson repowering would only be fired up 14% of the time, mostly in the summer months. And that means that 86% of the time, the energy we use would come from renewables. And that's an admirable position to be in. To my pleasant surprise, folks, and this is another reason why I believe we're on the right track to support Dan Broadman as our next council member, and he was elected. To our surprise, Dan Broadman, Councilman Dan Broadman, was forward enough to raise his hand and propose that he does not see a path forward at this time with 100% renewable energy. Instead, he suggested that we will have three of the Wärtsilä engines or the gas production engines. By the way, these engines can be converted into hydrogen, at least 25% hydrogen. So that's a green approach as well. So I am glad that we supported Dan Broadman because now he's not only just an advocate, but he's a policymaker. You can imagine Sierra Club and the Glendale Environmental Coalition were very vociferous last night. But the decision that the council had to make was for the entire 200,000 population, actually 196,000 population, not one group or the other, right? And that's the kind of council that we want to see govern in the city of Glendale. So the Grayson plan, the modified or alternative 7, which your board of directors and your executive team decided to support, was changed a bit from 5 gas engines to 3, and it's going to go and move forward. At the end of the day, folks, we all know renewables, everybody wants renewables. There's no questions about it. But we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we don't have the technology right now to actually provide 100% renewable for an entire city or a metropolis like City of Glendale. With that, Mr. President, that concludes my short report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about this or anything else.
Okay. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Well, first of all, before we go to questions, and I know we have one question, I want to thank you for keeping us up to date on this important legislation, local and statewide and countrywide, because it is obvious that, you know, we're working for the homeowners where we live and where we work, and we're working for our communities in general. That's a lot of what we do. I want to make sure to ask everyone to please go in and go into the, to do your red alert, do it today. And it is in the chat. Let's see, car.org advocacy. et cetera, et cetera. So please do that. We have two questions, starting with Ira. Ira?
Thank you very much. Well, several things. On the advocacy, that only allows you to do a tweet. So if you don't have a Twitter account, is there another way that people can make their voices known?
You can.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
Yes, and it is not as direct as the Twitter account. However, you can post in your Facebook, and I will put the link for it, an image opposing 679. This whole campaign, Ira, was designed for targeted areas, right?
Right.
And CAR was not clear, although our key contact, Dora Beal, pitched it to Laura Friedman, our assemblywoman. But CAR was not very, very clear on whether or not we are a targeted area or not. By the way, I need to add one more thing to this. There is overwhelming support among legislators on 679. So it's an uphill battle, but we like for you, for the exercise of being involved in the advocacy, and I'm sure most of you have a Twitter account, go to it and try it. That's all.
Okay. And on the city council action regarding solar, how do they know what's the enforcement to make sure that we get to 10%? And you said all ratepayers, so that means commercial and residential. And if they don't hit 10% by a certain time, are they going to say, if you're pulling building permits, you now have to do solar to force the issue to get to 10%? Has that been addressed?
Yeah. The answer is no. This is an intentionality versus a shall in a contract, right? So it's the intention of this council to have that. Now, keep in mind, under Grayson, they had a virtual power plant idea that was proposed by Sunrun, the largest solar installer in the nation, if not the world, that was going to generate 25 megawatts of power for the entire city. That almost creates electricity for about 40,000 homes, right? But that fell through. That fell through because Sunrun could no longer actually deliver that kind of a program with the bond financing rates as high as they are today, as well as supply chain disruptions. So we think this would be a better alternative to allow, whether you're an apartment building owner, to allow whether you own 2 units or a single family home to participate, reduce your energy costs, and reduce our dependence on fossil fuels as we move forward. Now, again, I have to reiterate this fact. We are #1 right now amongst different cities, including Los Angeles, in providing renewable energy or electricity through renewable energy sources. And that's a big, big, big achievement, right? And we want to do better, but it can't be, we cannot. I mean, Councilman Broadman, the most vociferous advocate for clean energy, turned around and said he does not see a path forward, and I'm quoting him, path forward without the gas turbines. And I'm glad that they all came to that realization. And I think that's the kind of council you want, deliberating and delivering decisions that affects the entire community.
Thanks. And one last quick thing. When do all the bills have to be decided as to whether they're going forward or not? Well, and I think they all had to be looked at by the other house, by the end of last month or something. When is the deadline for all the bills to be known if they're going forward or not?
Sure. And the deadline is the 31st of August. And what was passed in Senate today is in the House, and what was passed in the House today is in the Senate. Those decisions have to be made by the 31st. Some of the bills have already found their way, like 1105 in the suspense file, and for all practical purposes, they're dead for the year. And that was the sister bill to 679, right? That was in San Diego. So yeah, that's the process, Ira.
Okay, thanks a lot.
So we have a question for you from Rick Barnes. Greg? Rick?
Good morning. It was a very big surprise to be watching council last night and see Brotman, by the way, make that change. That was that took a lot more courage than I thought he was going to deal with. But thank you for being there, Greg, and keeping us all informed of that. That was a big night. Thank you.
Rick, I need to add one more thing. David and I have had several meetings with Councilman Brotman. I can't tell that we were not pleasantly surprised, but we were not astonished, right? Because we see as a general rule that when a council member gets elected, they still have that streak of advocacy versus governance. But once the reality is set, and once they have meetings, and once the city has done what they want, i.e., and I'll give you an example, the reason that Grayson was postponed was because Councilman Brotman wanted to find out if we can replace the energy that is being generated by the gas power turbines from LADWP. And they were shut down. LADWP told them there is no way you know what, we're going to be providing you energy unless it's an emergency, and that's for 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. Having said all of that, we are pleasantly gratified by the decision and the leadership that he took. But by the way, this goes for Mayor Kasakian, this goes for Ellen Asturian, although she voted against this one. But we understand that decision was 4-1. Paula Devine played a role, and Councilman Najarian most definitely played a great role last night.
Yes. It was a very interesting meeting.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Greg. Always great information.